me wanna holler, go away. I need more peace and hope and love. Where do I find it in this crazy old world? I need strategies, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Every time I listen, Lauren and David share strategies for living, and it makes me aware. I got strategies for living, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab.
You know, we need them, and we can use them, certainly. What am I talking about? Strategies. Strategies for living. So are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
Ready or not, I'm going to say I'm ready.
Well, that's important because the words you say are...
They're powerful, aren't
they can be very powerful. They really can. Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillian. She is psychotherapist, PLPC Lauren Leon McMillian. And, you know, you're giving us a hint of what we're going to talk about today. And it's a powerful thing. And it's words. Because the words that we say to ourselves and to others influence our emotions.
Well, not only our emotions especially, but I'd argue that they shape our world.
Absolutely.
And our experience of the world.
So they shape our world. I want to give credit to Dr. Robert Puff, who wrote an article in a blog in Psychology Today. I think he calls his blog Meditation for Modern Life. And a couple of years ago, he wrote an article about this, which, you know what I do. I go through and I see things and I put them in a file.
Right.
And when it comes time to do the program, we say, what are we going to do today?
And we'll find out. Let's dig through the pile and see if any inspiration jumps out, right?
But our thoughts and words have a very, very powerful influence on our emotions. And particularly, I think we'll focus a bit today on negative emotions because even though they're powerful, they're temporary, they don't define us, and we can overcome the negative emotions by,
by recognizing that we're the ones who label them and we create with the labels.
Absolutely. Yeah. And getting into the present moment, if you will. So that's on taps today here on Strategies for Living. Thank you for joining us. And we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Learning RX, We Train Your Brain, the Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitas Delicatessen, home of the Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, pretty good Muffies too, SRT Sales Training, Uprising, Addiction Center, and Mira, Direct Primary Care. Today, the power of words, how labels influence our emotions. Talking about it today right here on Strategies for Living.
Tune in daily, find the light. Healthy mind and spirits bright. Strategies for living strong. Feel the vibe, it won't go wrong. Body moves and soul align. Catch the rhythm, feel the time. Radio rehab every day. Chase those clouds of gray away. Your daily dose of radio rehab. Lift you up when skies seem trapped. Mind and body, spirits free. Living life in harmony.
And welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian over there tapping on her microphone.
Yeah. Once a drummer,
yeah,
always a
like
drummer.
a drummer. Yeah, there you go. And David McMillian, and glad you're here with us. We're talking about words and labels today, the power of words and how labels can influence and impact how we feel. Because what we tell ourselves day in and day out, it does really make a difference.
It does. Well, it not just makes a difference, it creates the life we experience. You know, one of the songs, and we might ought to do a show on it. One song that I found recently, and it's really not so much a song as it is a narration that's been put to music by Alan Watts. The narration is of Alan Watts speaking, and he was actually quoting someone else, but he said that the 5 colors make a man blind, and the 5 tones make a man deaf. Right? So, in other words, you know, us trying to put labels and box in the colors, if you only see 5 colors, you're blind.
Yeah.
Because that's not, we know that the spectrum of color is infinite, and then beyond what we can see in the visible spectrum is infinite, right?
Yeah.
But the same is true for sound. But in labeling them, we actually limit ourselves in what we're able to perceive and experience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need them, right? We need labels in order to communicate and to not blow out the system, right?
Right.
So there's a healthy balance there, right?
Yeah.
And it's important to realize that we have the power to change and to create these labels and the words that we tell ourselves and to narrate the stories that we narrate about our experience.
What we tell ourselves day in and day out makes a difference. If we live long enough, as an example, most of us are going to, at some point in our lives, experience the loss of our parents. And
or the loss of someone.
Or the loss of somebody incredibly important. And you know, that can be an incredibly tough thing to go through, especially if you were close to your parents. And sadness is a common emotion when a parent dies or when someone close to us passes away, because we can't talk to them anymore. We can't visit with them anymore. We can't celebrate holidays with them anymore. So it's a natural reaction to feel sad when somebody very important to us is no longer in our lives.
Right, in the same way.
And so sadness is an experience. It's not an identity. So for most people, the sadness is temporary.
Yeah.
It's something that they experience, not who they are.
I think that is such a key distinction that we can make, right? It's the shift from this is something I'm feeling and I'm experiencing versus this is who I am.
You know, I grew up right across the street from where I went to church, Christ the King Catholic Church in Bossier, and I was an altar boy, you know, and so back in those days there was a 6:30 mass, and so many a day, you know, I'd get up and walk across the street and go into the church.
We're talking 6:30 a.m.
6:30 a.m.
Right. Okay.
And I got the heck scared out of me one morning because once an Italian lady back in that day lost a husband.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
From that point on, they were in black. And from that point on, pretty much they were in church.
Yeah.
So one morning, you know, I'm going over to church about 20 after. I beat the priest and was going to get the lights on and everything. And so I went to the altar boy sacristy, and I'm walking through to the priest sacristy, and out of the corner of my eye, I catch this figure, and it just scared the living daylights out of me. But it was a little old Italian lady, all in black, with her hands up, you know, and doing her thing.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I'm illustrating this is not to put that down, but you know, in the culture, in that culture at that time,
it became her identity.
That's
you
what
were a widow.
That's what an Italian widow of that day did. Hopefully, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, for most of us, sadness is not that. It's temporary. It's something we experience. It's not who they become.
Right.
Right.
And one of the key things, and I think people might think I'm real nitpicky when I do this, but this is the reason, right? I like if people say I'm sad. Sometimes it's important just to make the shift from I'm sad to I'm experiencing sadness.
Oh, yeah. Or I'm feeling sad right now.
Because when anything that you follow, anything that follows I am becomes incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the fact is, you are not your feelings. They are an experience. They are messengers that get to pass through your being.
Right. And as we go through grief, given the example that I'm given about, parental loss or important person loss, well, that grief is part of the healing process. You're always going to miss the person. You're always going to miss your parents.
And that part becomes a part of who you are, who you arrange around the experiences.
But the intense sadness that we feel at first will fade. That's part of the healing process, part of the grieving process. But some people get stuck. Some people get stuck in the sadness, and it becomes overwhelming. So that could lead easily to, well, I'm a depressed person. Mm-hmm. I'm not okay.
Yeah.
This won't ever end. And those thoughts actually can intensify depression and make it even harder to overcome. And I don't think we perhaps talk enough about that.
Yeah, it becomes a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
Those negative self-labels reinforce and deepen the emotional state because you're continually narrating the story as if that is your foreseeable future, right?
And, we might go to our doctor, and our doctor wants to help us. Our doctor means very well, so we might get prescribed an antidepressant or something like that, when really what needs to happen is, and a lot of doctors do this today, thankfully. Yeah. Some still don't, but I hope more and more do, when instead of just getting the prescription pad out and writing a prescription for Lexapro or Zoloft or Paxil or Prozac, whatever. Okay, I'm going to give you this, but I want you to go get some therapy.
Yep. Go do something
or I want you to go to a grief group, or I want you to, in other words, something to process through and to move through
the emotion.
Yeah. Because once we get a label in our minds, sometimes we can get stuck there, and it's harder to overcome.
Well, and once the label sticks, it starts to organize your entire experience. Right? Because then your brain is looking for that story and looking to validate that story.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of the jobs of the brain.
Absolutely.
To continue to look at the environment and, see, that's another place that this happens is people's weight. Yeah. So a lot of people gain weight. Women are certainly going to gain weight during pregnancy.
Sure.
And that's normal. It's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Some women start exercising immediately after giving birth, and they quickly return to that pre-pregnancy weight. So, maybe they don't see themselves as overweight. They view the extra weight as a temporary change, not part of their identity. So, and that's massive right there.
Yeah.
That we always, we've been talking here lately about how powerful every single person listening to us right now is a powerful being. They, a lot of times, and I hear you. You may say, "Well, I don't feel like it." You're shouting at your radio right now.
Well, and I think to some degree that's by design, right? We've limited ourselves, and society, and what we've told ourselves over and over and over again has created this limited experience for us to hopefully remember that we're actually limitless.
Yes, one of the points that Dr. Puff makes in his article. Is he says emotions are like fickle friends.
Yeah.
So let's say, you lose your job. A lot of people, that's a common experience, and most people bounce back from that. They might look for a new job, or maybe go back to school, or explore different career paths, right?
Right.
But we all know somebody who's lost a job and never fully recovered,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And, some people even struggle for years, and even then maybe turn to a substance, turn to alcohol or weed or whatever. That's just gonna delay the inevitable. And the reason is because we label ourselves a quote unquote, I'm air quoting here, failure, and the behavior reflects the belief.
Well, you're making a good point, because two people can have the exact same experience.
Absolutely.
But in the labeling it differently, they can live two different completely lives and emotional experiences, right?
Absolutely. Because our thoughts, our labels, our words, they're powerful, powerful things, and they affect our emotions. You're powerful, every single one of us.
Yep.
But we got to understand, that we do have the power. We're talking about that and much more today here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us. More to come.
Facing the same old problems day to day makes you wanna holler, get away. Looking for the road that'll get me there. Looking for hope and peace to spare. Looking for strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio.
Looking for strategies? Well, we just happen to have a few.
Here we are.
You've come to the right place. We are Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian and David McMillian talking today about the power of our words, the labels we put on ourselves, and how that can influence our lives, and especially influence our emotions. Any therapist probably will tell you that they hear people come in and say, I'm depressed. I'm an anxious person. And, you were making the point earlier, Lauren, and I think it's a very important point to make. It's not nitpicky. Instead of I'm depressed or I'm anxious, I'm a depressed person now, I'm an anxious person now. One of the things to hopefully the therapist can help you navigate and understand
To detach.
is you're not your emotions.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and detachment is coming, but you got to first understand, okay, emotions are separate from who you are.
Absolutely.
So you're experiencing depression, or you may be experiencing anxiety right now. But those feelings don't define who you are. So what happens is we label ourselves. And we do that routinely without thinking about it. And that's one of the reasons we're talking about it today, because, you can't change what you don't acknowledge.
Right.
And if we understand that we do this kind of naturally, then we can begin to take a step back and understand that when we label ourselves, we're risking bringing those labels further in and internalizing those labels. And too often, the labels become our reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another empowering thing suggests that if we're not the emotions, if we're able to step back and witness and allow them to move through us, what that means is that who we truly are is much bigger than any emotion that we can experience.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's empowering.
Absolutely. And, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the same thing, it's exactly the same thing with
your
our
thoughts.
thinking.
Yeah. Absolutely.
with our thoughts. You're not, and and some people may argue with me on this, and okay, I get it, but I want us all to think about it. There you go. Pun intended. You're not. Thoughts move through you.
Yep.
There used to be the screensavers on our computer that you could put whatever you wanted to, and it would scroll through, right?
Right.
I don't see many of those anymore, but maybe they're still
the
out
old
there.
original 2000
So
screensavers.
that's kind of an example of what thoughts and emotions do. They kind of roll through.
They float through.
They float through,
Yeah.
and many times we grab hold of them and we won't let go.
Yes.
And when we grab hold and won't let go, it's just a feeling. It's just a thought. Now, that doesn't,
Well,
I'm not minimizing the importance of feelings and thoughts, obviously. But there's also the importance of what we focus on,
Yeah.
And if you focus on it, like I was saying earlier, if you internalize it, I'm a depressed person,
Yes.
I'm depressed instead of I'm experiencing depression.
Right.
That can make a world of difference.
Yeah. Well, when you label yourself instead of the experience, our brains actually treat it as if it's permanent. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what creates that hopelessness, that feeling of stuck, and the loops. But here's the thing. Our brain loves certainty, even if it's negative certainty.
Okay.
And so I think that's why, one of the reasons why we can get ourselves stuck there is because I'd rather be certain that I'm angry or certain that I'm sad than be willing to experience the change of emotion that is natural biologically, physically, and psychologically to move through me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes that's why I think saying this is who I am can actually feel stabilizing, even though it's harmful.
Yeah. Yeah. Eeyore.
Yes.
Yeah.
perfect
A
example.
lot of people know Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. And what's the deal with Eeyore? Eeyore is always negative and gloomy, and he constantly reinforces that negativity by focusing on the absolute worst aspects of every situation. We all have Eeyores in our life.
Yes.
All right, now
But we also have Eeyore parts.
That's
I think.
true.
Yeah,
That's
within
very true.
us. Yeah.
But the important thing, and Dr. Puff makes this point in his article, that emotions are like campfires. In other words, they need fuel.
Yes.
I mean, you're not going to keep a campfire going unless you feed it. It needs fuel to keep burning. So if you don't keep adding wood, the campers listening to us know exactly the fire's going to die down, right?
Right.
Well, emotions work exactly the same way. So Eeyore is a prime example for us to look at and kind of chuckle at and humorously remind ourselves, well, wait a minute, do I want to be an Eeyore?
Right.
Yeah? Because emotions absolutely work that way.
Well, I mean, physiologically, if you are maintaining a regulated nervous system, emotions are intended to last 90 seconds.
Okay.
That's it.
Yep.
If you allow yourself to feel it at its intensity and you allow yourself to fully experience an emotion.
Which is important for us to do.
Yeah. Then
Just don't get stuck.
right. Well, then 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to feel it and don't add don't add fuel to that fire, right?
Yep.
And allow it to pass through and do its thing and teach you and guide you and send any messages that it might be bringing along with it.
Yep.
One of my favorite poems, it's I think it's called The Guest House, but it's talking about, allowing the emotions to come in as if they were guests in your home. Right?
Yeah.
You allow them in, you welcome them with kindness, and you let them stay for a little bit, and then you send them on their way.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't allow a guest to come in and
And
then
move in. Yeah.
or to
Some may want to.
burn the house down.
Right.
But a lot of us do that emotionally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
We get so codependent on our own emotions, so to speak.
Eeyore, again, is a good example for us. I was mentioning, we all know the character Eeyore. But here's the deal with Eeyore. Sometimes he experiences joy and happiness with the help of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of that's part of the story, right?
Right.
And that shows, if we look at that and kind of let that be a parable for us, it shows Eeyore definitely has ingrained negativity, but Eeyore also shows us by being able to experience joy and happiness some of the times with a little help from your friends, that even the most ingrained negativity can be overcome.
Absolutely.
And that's great news.
I mean, it's just the flip side, right? If words can hurt, words can also heal us.
Right.
Right. So the same mechanism that traps you in the negativity can also free you and get you on a loop of more positive, uplifting, expansive, I'll call it that, expansive emoting.
Yeah. You know, I love to go to movies, right?
Yeah.
I love to go to the Robinson Film Center, especially, and you know, and one of the reasons is because that I particularly like movies is because it's a time out on the rest of life. I mean, for that 2 hours or so, I'm totally into whatever I'm. You know, because I don't generally go to movies unless I know, hey, I want to go see this movie, and so we get captivated, you know, and our worry and anxiety fades away. Well, our thoughts, you know, and feelings, you know, can also be, we can kind of go to the movies there, because, you know, we can distract ourselves, if you will, with some of our thoughts of worry, anxiety, and depression. Now, I mean, when the movie ends, sometimes, okay, you're walking out and you're going back into life, but you don't have to bring the negative emotions with you. If you can call a time out for a little while, at least it lets you know, okay,
yeah, I'm more than this.
I'm more than this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I get what you're saying now, and I really think that one of our highest potentials is to kind of treat all of life as if it were a movie. Right?
Well, maybe it is.
Well, perhaps so. But to be able to witness and allow the experience to be what it is without getting so caught up.
Yeah.
And I think, interestingly enough, going to the movies, especially for me, who I am a deeply feeling and sensitive person, going to the movies is a great practice for going to life, because being able to watch the movie and then catch yourself as you're getting so immersed in the story, right? And then be able to remind yourself, wait, I'm in the movie theater and there's more. There's more to life than this.
Yeah.
And we can do the exact same thing actually in our life.
But it's a skill.
It is.
It's a skill that we have
practice.
to learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so.
And I want to also touch on, you know, what we're talking about. It's not pretending or minimizing, right? I mean, when we say allow the negativity to move on or to focus on something different.
Right.
We want to acknowledge that this feeling, whatever it may be, is here for a purpose and for my experience, right? This is here, but it's not all of me.
I get to experience it.
Yeah.
I don't have to claim it as who I am.
And perhaps it's here to teach me something.
Absolutely.
And perhaps it's here for my greatest good. I just am not aware in the moment of what that may be leading towards.
Yeah, or what I'm going to do with that even later.
Right.
You know, sometimes things happen in our lives, and at the moment they're happening, we tell ourselves, oh, this is a tragedy. This is horrible. But if you live long enough, you know, perhaps we've all experienced things that one day we say, this is horrible, this is a tragedy, but we live a little longer and it turns out, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't such a bad thing that happened.
No.
The power of our labels and how powerful we are as human beings, talking about that today and much more right here on Strategies for Living. We've got more. We're coming back. Stay with us.
We all have problems every day. We all need help along the way. We need strategies Strategies for living radio.
And welcome back in. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian here on Strategies. Kind of in the middle of the program here, you might be saying, I wish that so-and-so could hear this. You probably have, if you don't need to hear this so much, you probably have somebody in your life that does. And, geez, this is on the radio. And so, I'm out of luck. No, you're not. No.
We're on podcast.
We are podcasting, yeah. And
anywhere you get your podcast.
Anywhere you get your podcast, whether that's
Spotify, Pandora, Apple.
All the places.
Castbox, you name it.
And just put in Strategies for Living in the search. We're there. Subscribe to us. It's amazing to me that, how many places in the world we've got listeners now. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's amazing.
We're apparently pretty popular in Vietnam this
We're
week.
big in Saigon. I don't know what that means, but we're big there. So, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun to watch that grow. And we invite you in too. You don't ever have to miss a program. And I hope you don't.
Yeah.
All right. So today we're talking about the power of words. Yeah. And how our labels influence our emotions. And, I think it's very, very important to understand. We look up we look up and we see the clouds. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really important to look up and understand that if that's a metaphor for who you are, you're not the clouds, you're the sky.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
you're not the emotions, you are the being through which they pass.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
We all have experience. We look up and we notice, and, sometimes clouds are there and they're plentiful, and then sometimes it doesn't seem to be a cloud in the sky,
what's interesting, too, about clouds is they're always moving.
Yeah.
Always moving, always changing,
and
always
again,
transforming.
that's why it's such a good metaphor for our thoughts and feelings.
But the deeper invitation there is also, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you without the labels?
Well, I'm the clear blue sky is who I am.
That's right. The light of a clear blue morning.
And there's sometimes there's clouds there and sometimes there's not.
Right.
But who I am is that clear blue sky.
You're the awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, the awareness behind it. That evolving human witness behind the being that through which the clouds, the emotions and thoughts move through.
So our thoughts and emotions are like those clouds. They come, they go. Negative thoughts are dark clouds. Mm-hmm. And so, we all experience the storms sometimes that come through. And negative thoughts are like those storms. They're like dark clouds that can temporarily obscure the sky.
Yeah.
But no storm stays.
Right.
They can't diminish the inherent beauty of the sky,
Yeah, and I think it's also important to remember that those storms bring rain, which is very important for any kind of growth.
Absolutely.
Right, and the same is true for any of our stormy emotions.
Absolutely.
Right, those emotions are potent growth factors.
Yeah, yeah.
Bringers.
I grew up, watching Yogi Bear cartoons.
Smarter than the average bear.
Smarter than the average. Oh, boo boo.
You want a picnic basket?
But what did Mr. Ranger always have signs up? Don't feed the bears.
Don't feed the bears.
Okay. So what if we were to put up a sign in our emotional self, in our minds?
In our landscape.
Don't feed the negativity. Because, what's going to happen if you want... In reality, it's an important thing if you go to place that the bears are, that you don't feed the bears, because especially if you're in your picnic area, you don't want the bears hanging around.
You know what you need? You just need to change the B to an F.
Well, oh yeah,
yeah.
Don't feed the fears.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we experience fear or any other negative emotion, we need to be mindful of how we're feeding those,
Yeah.
So ask yourself, are my thoughts and actions right now adding fuel to the fire? back to my little Italian lady that scared the bejesus out of me. Okay, there's nothing wrong with grieving.
And there's nothing wrong with a mourning ritual
And there's
either.
absolutely not. It's wonderful. But, if it becomes your identity, if it
Yes.
becomes then who you are,
Yeah.
then that can be a problem.
So a practical strategy there might be to listen for the language you're using, right? Listen
Yes.
for when you say I am,
Right.
or I've always been whatever, or that's just who I am.
Right. And ask yourself,
Catch that.
is that true?
Yeah.
Catch
question,
it and
question it.
Because, Lauren, our natural state, who we truly are, is like that clear blue sky. Our natural state is of peace and contentment.
Yes.
And if we're experiencing any kind of negativity in our life, it's important to take a step back and ask ourselves, am I actively fueling this?
Right.
I mean, that's an important...
What story am I telling myself?
Right.
Yeah.
Anybody that is listening to us that is stuck on anxiety or stuck on depression or any other fear or worry, and they just seem to be overcome with it, I challenge us to take a step back and ask ourselves, am I actively fueling this?
Yeah.
Because the good news is, and this is great news actually, our minds only focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So when you notice yourself experiencing negative emotions, you can just acknowledge them. Thank you.
Yes.
Don't have to judge them, and you don't have to identify with them.
Right. Well,
and you can shift.
And I think it is important to identify them, but not to identify with them.
Oh, good point.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to say to recognize I am experiencing anxiety at the moment.
Yep.
Or this moment feels tense. Right. So notice I'm using temporary words that indicate that this is a temporary experience and that I'm not attaching to the emotion.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we've all had crises, right? We've all experienced a crisis if we've lived long enough in our life. And even sometimes we get to a point where I just want out of here, right?
Yeah.
And that, that's scary. That's scary for therapists working with you and your family members if they know about it.
It's a point of overwhelm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I invite all of us, if you've ever experienced that, to truly observe, take a long walk and truly observe your surroundings. Really, and what are we doing here? We're changing our focus. Mm-hmm. We're changing our focus. That can demonstrate to you the power of shifting focus and interrupting negative thought patterns. Mm-hmm. Now, I think it's important if you are experiencing that, to get help.
988 is the hotline.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the help is that close to you.
Yeah.
Somebody is manning that number all the time.
That's right.
And so, none of us are ever alone.
No,
we don't
not.
have
and
to be.
And there's so many great resources available to you now.
Absolutely.
In the community and elsewhere.
Yep.
Beyond.
So, talking the importance and the power of labels and thoughts and feelings and emotions. Oh my. We'll be back with more strategies in just a moment.
Don't feed those bears.
And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Okay, it's time for me to get my lasso out and throw it over. People are saying, do we want to hear this? we don't want to know that about them. Lauren, Leon, McMillian, David McMillian. No, you don't.
No. You hear
But
nothing.
I'm lassoing over to say and to invite you to tell us what's your takeaway from what we've talked about today.
Just the power of words, right? That they're not just how we describe our lives, but they're how we shape them. And if you change your...
We're creators.
Absolutely. If you change your language, you change the relationship to your experience.
Yes.
And when that happens, everything feels different.
And you will experience truly how truly powerful you are.
Yeah.
And one experience in your life where you do this, and it can change everything, because anything that you do once, you can do again and again, no
Sure.
matter what comes up.
Right.
And that, again, that underscores the power that you have, what a powerful being you truly are.
I think it's where intentional living begins, right?
Yes.
Not with changing everything around us, but becoming aware of the words that are shaping.
Yeah. The
Everything.
kingdom is, it's all within
Within
you.
us.
The kingdom
Yep.
is within. And so if we understand that and we begin to operate from that place, now we're feeling the power
That's where magic happens.
of creation, and we are creators. Lauren, thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, thank you. We appreciate you being with us here on Strategies, and we appreciate all of our sponsors who make it possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing,
Woof, woof.
Learning RX, We Train Your Brain, The Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of The Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, and some pretty good muffies too. SRT Sales Training, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira Direct Primary Care. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you call? And what would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Lauren Leon McMillian, I'm David McMillian. See you next time right here on Strategies for a Living.